Hello, friends. I have a special treat for you today. Did you know there is only one person in the entire world who is licensed to build 1966 Batmobile replicas? It is the Batman of Logansport, Indiana, Mark Reyka. Mark and I met when I took over the pulpit position at his local congregation, and we've been friends ever since. But before we get to his interview, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. So Mark, at what age did you discover Batman and the Batmobile, and when did you fall in love with the car?
I was 2 years old in 1967 when I saw my very first episode of the Batman TV show, Tim, and it was amazing to see the color, the action, to see the costumes, to see those great fight scenes, but especially with the Batmobile. And I said, someday I want to drive that car. So it goes all the way back to 2 years old. My parents said that I've always loved Batman and loved the Batmobile.
Awesome. So when did you decide to build your very first Batmobile, and why?
I built my very first Batmobile when I was 17 years old, and the reason for building the Batmobile was because we had made 2 Batman fan films in high school, and I was gearing up to do my third one in college, and I wanted the ultimate prop. For the first 2 movies, I shot footage off of the TV screen and off of the movie screen and things like that. And it just wasn't satisfactory. I couldn't do exactly what I wanted with it and things like this. So I wanted to build the ultimate prop. We had built sets, we had sewn costumes, we'd made props, and we thought, how hard could it be to build a car? We were so out of our depth, but it was a lot of fun.
So how hard was it?
Incredibly. And we were so naive to know that we couldn't do it that we did. That's basically what it was. Willpower was the answer. We did not have any tools, no automotive tools. We had no automotive experience. We didn't even own an air compressor, if that tells you about our naivete as we entered this project. We were used to working in wood, so we did almost all of the work using plywood, wood paneling, some styrofoam. We used some sheet metal, and then covered everything in layers of fiberglass and then gallons and gallons of Bondo.
Wow. And so that was the start of Bat 1. You started it when you were 17. Did you finish it that same year?
It took about 2.5 summers to finish the car, enough to be able to make the movie. And, if we had known how long it was going to take, I'm not sure if we would have done it, or would have done it that way, that we might have built something, as a temporary plywood prop or something like that instead of being a drivable car, because it was very, very hard. But, every single mistake that we could make, we made on building that car, and lots of redos, that's for sure.
All right. So how did you go from building a Batmobile for your fan film to wanting to build and sell Batmobiles for a living?
Well, you remember when I said that we used wood for the base of building the Batmobile, right? Bat 1. All of that wood, about 20 years later, all of it rotted away and it needed to be reworked because the car was being destroyed from the inside out. So we tore off the back half of the car and we were rebuilding the back half using styrofoam and using fiberglass over top of it. And got the notion that I really think that there's a business in selling replica Batmobiles. That there were a couple of people that were trying to do it, just weren't doing it very well. The accuracy was not very good. The quality level was not very good. So I thought, well, maybe we could answer the questions for both of those topics and be able to do something completely unique that nobody else had ever done before at a level that nobody else had done before. And that's when we launched Fiberglass Freaks back in 2003.
Wow. So, Fiberglass Freaks. How'd you come up with that name?
Well, my ex-business partner wanted fiberglass fat men, and I nixed that idea, but I did like the alliteration with the second F So I came up with freaks as being the second word, fiberglass freaks. And the way I say it is that you'd have to be a freak to work in fiberglass, right? That's the way to remember us. And so far, so good. People remember that name.
It's a hard name to forget. So, you are the only person on planet Earth who is licensed to build 1966 Batmobile replicas. How did that happen?
Well, the first answer to that question is we have been blessed with a fantastic crew to be able to put together these incredible automobiles. We have experts that are in each area. One person is an expert in the mechanical and electrical. One person's an expert in the body. Then I'm an expert on the Batmobile overall. So I know what gadgets need to go into the car, and I know what the car looks like, and things of this nature. And you put all of that together, and we were building, as I said earlier, a car that was completely unique because the quality level was so much better, the accuracy level was so much better than what anybody had done. So DC Comics sent a spy to my shop, pretending to be a customer. And apparently he liked what he saw enough to be able to recommend, if DC Comics was ever going to license anybody, that this is the guy. Their words, not mine. And that was incredible to have them outline all of that years later when I found out about it. Because it started with a cease and desist. I received a cease and desist letter, and instead of capitulating, I instead asked questions. I hired one of the best law firms in the Midwest, Barnes and Thornburg, and we decided to go toe-to-toe with DC Comics to find out, okay, what have you got? So we held our cards close to the vest, and we kept looking at their cards going, I don't think so, I don't think so, and I don't think so. And eventually they changed their minds and decided to go a different direction. So about 2.5 years after that cease and desist letter, I was offered licensing.
Wow.
And everything changed, of course, then. So it was pretty wild, pretty crazy times.
Have any other, to your knowledge, any other superhero vehicles been licensed?
There are a few vehicles that have been licensed by the studios, like DC Comics did for us, and that was the Knight Rider car, the Kit car, was licensed by Universal for a while. I don't know very many others, though. I think that's really rare to happen. Now, as far as DC Comics goes, this is the only vehicle, the 1966 Batmobile, is the only vehicle they've licensed for the public to purchase of a full-scale vehicle. So no Batboat, no Batcycle, no 89 Batmobile, or no Tumbler, none of the others. Just the 66 Batmobile.
Wow, what a blessing.
Indeed.
So, did you ever meet George Barris, the creator of the original Batmobile?
I did. I met George Barris in 2003 when he was being given the Peterson Award for a Lifetime Achievement Award. He was given that award in Indianapolis, and that was the first time I got to see the #1 Batmobile also. George Barris built the #1 Batmobile from a 1955 Lincoln Futura. That he popped a mold of that, cast 3 fiberglass bodies, and those are the ones most people saw at the different trade shows like the World of Wheels and other events like that. And then eventually he ended up touring also with, I shouldn't have said the word eventually, he also toured with the #5 car, which was a fan-built Batmobile. So he ended up owning those 5 cars, and even though he didn't build that 5th one, it was part of his repertoire, part of his tour of vehicles. And then he ended up buying another replica built by one of his former employees, and that's the one that the Barris family owns today. So I met Barris in 2003, then I met him again a couple more times. I did an interview with him while he was sitting in the #1 screen-used car in 2008, which was Going Batty with George Barris, which is available on our website in case you're interested in that at fiberglassfreaks.com. It was a lot of fun. We asked a lot of questions that were from Batmobile fans, not just from general fans. about the Batman TV show, but specifics about the car and about the TV show from that perspective. And then I got to see him again at a gigantic Batmobile event that was hosted by Eric Seltzer of 1966Batmobile.com. And that was the last time that I saw George, was in 2009 in February.
So you mentioned the 1955 Lincoln Futura.
Yeah, that's not true, because I met him again in 2013 when he sold the #1 car. Excuse me, sorry about that.
That's all right.
So yes, 1955 Lincoln Futura.
And Fiberglass Freaks is building one.
Correct. Yeah, we are building our very first ground-up replica of the 1955 Lincoln Futura concept car, and it has the center canopy that opens and closes at the pivot points. It will have the chrome bumpers all the way around the car, and will look just like that original concept car did before George Barris modified it into the Batmobile.
In case you're wondering what a 1955 Lincoln Futura looks like, that's that car right there. All right. Has Adam West or Burt Ward or anybody from the Batman show ever seen one of your Batmobiles? And if so, what did they think?
I had the pleasure of working with both Adam West and Burt Ward at some of the comic book conventions using one of our cars. And Adam West was looking at our 10th Batmobile, and the customer that had bought that car provided the engine, which was a 702 horsepower Ford 460 bored out to a 514 stroker. And he said, "How many horsepower was that?" I said, 702 out of it. He said, "That's great. The car that I had was a piece of junk." And we just had a blast, died laughing. But he was very complimentary of the car. Burt Ward was walking around one of the other vehicles that we built, our first one to Australia, and he was looking at it saying, "Well, that never worked on our car, and that was always broken on our car, and you actually got that to work. That's really neat." And it was just a real pleasure to get the take of both of those gentlemen about the car. And then several of the other stars from the show, like Julie Newmar, who played Catwoman, and Lee Merriweather also played Catwoman. Yvonne Craig, that played Batgirl, saw pictures of our Batmobile. I had a giant poster made, and they signed that poster, and they were complimentary of the car as well. George Barris got to see two of our cars, our 10th car and I think our 19th car. He was down in Australia and got to see that Australian car that I was talking about earlier in person. So that was really cool. And drove around in it. So that was cool.
All right. That's pretty neat. So, who buys Batmobiles?
So our customers are 50 to 60 years old, and these are the guys that have never bought anything for themselves their whole life. So their wives ask them for their 50th birthday, "What's something special? What's something you've always wanted your entire life?" And they say, "I've always wanted a Batmobile." And they say, "Well, let's do it." And they do some research. They find us online at fiberglassfreaks.com. They see all the wonderful pictures, and they're astounded that somebody is actually building replicas. And then they see the quality level, and they see the accuracy level of what we are doing here. And after about an hour and a half phone call, that initial phone call, we set things up to be able to put things into motion for them to be able to achieve their dreams of owning a 1966 Batmobile replica.
That's neat. Now, is it true, speaking of accuracy, that you went frame by frame through every single appearance of the car in every episode of the Batman television series and movie to get an accurate representation of the car?
Yes, it is true. My father raced home from work, John Racop. He raced home from work every single day for the entire summer to record all 120 episodes for me on VHS. Now, kids, that's videotape, by the way, long before digital. So yes, videotape, and he would record, and he would pause out the commercials for me. So I would go through literally frame by frame on VHS tape, watching every single instance with the Batmobile, and I was taking copious notes the entire time. So that's when you find out what are those funny lights in front of the compass on the Batman's dash top. What is the 5-light flasher that's underneath the arch? How many flutes are in the center console grill? How many oval openings are in the beacon cage? How many louvers are in the rear package tray underneath the rear windshield? All of those questions and many, many more were answered by watching those episodes. Sometimes there's only one episode to be able to find an answer to that question out of the entire series. And there are a lot of stock shots too, where they would reuse the same shot over and over again. So those you're not going to get much new information out of. But every once in a while there'd be a new shot that would come along. So by the time you're into second and third season, there wasn't a whole lot of new information. But that first season, oh yeah.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
So is it true that you're planning on retiring from the Batmobile building business?
Yes, I've been doing this for 17 years. And I have announced my retirement. I announced that I was offering to build 5 more cars. I've sold 2 of those 5 so far as of this date, which is February the 10th of 2021. And we're offering 3 more cars. And then after that, that's probably going to be it. I might be able to stay open later than that, but at this point, I don't think so. I'm winding this business down because I did inherit my father's rental business, and that business is going to take a lot more of my time than I ever could have imagined. And it's a lot of work, to be sure, but I need to honor his legacy.
That's great. There's also a museum, a Batmobile or Batman museum in progress, or is it a Fiberglass Freaks museum? What is it? Tell us a little bit about it.
It's all of the above. The Fiberglass Freaks Museum will be a Batman museum, a Batmobile museum, and a Fiberglass Freaks museum. So in the upper floor, there will be, to begin with, a gift shop. And then inside of there will be, you go into the museum proper, and you'll be able to see a replica of the Wayne Manor study, complete with the sliding bookcase, the Shakespeare bust, with a switch to be able to operate that sliding door. The Batphone will be parked there naturally. And then you move from there into a small theater if you want to see documentaries about the TV show, about the Batmobile, the Futura, about Fiberglass Freaks, or about Logansport automotive history. We had 4 automotive manufacturers in the 1920s located right here in Logansport.
Wow.
And we also had a fire engine business as well that was here, so making it a 5th business. So it's really neat, the history in this incredible town. Then from there you go into the Rogues Gallery. So there you will see 4 of the main supervillains as statues, complete with accurate costumes. So the Joker, the Riddler, Catwoman, and Penguin. And then about 2,500 pieces of memorabilia, including some of the pieces that you see behind me here on this display, will be inside of glass displays throughout the Rogues Gallery. Then you go downstairs, and you are in the Batcave. A replica of the Batcave, complete with an atomic pile and some of the Bat computer equipment, and one of our replica Batmobiles. And
awesome.
Then eventually we'll be adding a few other vehicles. There would be a Batman cycle, a Batgirl cycle, and then you come back up the stairs into the gift shop for hopefully to purchase some wonderful Fiberglass Freaks items on the way out the door.
And finally, tell us about your Batcon conventions.
We have had an absolute blast by celebrating the Batman TV show with a convention called Batcon. We started that one actually at our 10-year anniversary, and then we did our 15-year anniversary. We did a 5-year break. Then we did 2 of them in a row, and it was really exciting to see how the public would come out to support the convention. and people would come from all over the country, from as far away as Florida, to come to Logansport for our particular convention. And it was certainly growing by leaps and bounds. And if not for the pandemic, I think we certainly would have had our convention last year, and it would have been bigger and better yet. One of our years, we had the original Batcopter that was owned by Eugene Knock, or is owned by Eugene Knock, was at Batcon. So we had a Bat Cycle, a Batmobile, and a Batcopter at that particular convention. And what a blast to be able to see 3 of the main vehicles in one convention.
That's amazing. So, what's it looking like for 2021? Do you think Batcon's going to make it in 2021, or is the pandemic going to hold you off another year?
Probably. The pandemic's probably going to hold us off for another year as far as doing Batcon. And our plan is to do a soft open of the museum. I was planning to do a gigantic opening of it, but I think that a soft opening is probably more realistic at this time. Probably late summer or early fall, we're hoping, right in that neighborhood. We'll have to see how the timing works out. And then as soon as we can, realistically, we'll bring Batcon back into the picture again. And I can't wait to do so. We had some very special guests at the previous year's Batcon. Johnny Green of Johnny Green and the Green Men he's a musician that taught Gene Simmons of Kiss how to do the fire breathing. And he toured with Elvis and many other celebrities for sure. He was fantastic as a guest. And then we had Philo Barnhart, one of the Disney animators, was at our convention talking about working on such movies as Beauty and the Beast, and he worked on The Little Mermaid, and his parents were heavily involved with the hand-drawn animation of years ago, back Snow White days and that sort of thing. He was a terrific guest as well, and we had Doug Rice from the Animaniacs. So it was really neat to have these kinds of very special guests at our convention.
That is neat.
Building Batmobiles has been an absolute blast, and I've been building them professionally for 17 years. I built my first car when I was 17 years old. So one of the neatest things of all was going back into time to when I was 11 years old. My dad took me to Chicago to the Antique Auto Museum, and I got to see my very first Batmobile. And this was one of the original 4 George Barris built cars. This was the Dragster. It was on drag strips all across the country doing exhibition runs. They would run down with the flamethrower going. They'd pop the bat parachutes. They would do 180-degree turns and this kind of thing. Well, this particular car is what launched the building of Bat-1. When I saw that car, it ignited the dream that not only was I going to own a Batmobile someday, I was going to build it. So imagine my surprise. After starting Fiberglass Freaks, I get a phone call. Hi, this is Doug Jackson. I said, wait a second, the Doug Jackson, the owner of the number 4 Batmobile? You know your stuff, sir. I said, well, thank you very much. What can I do for you? He said he had driven over rough railroad tracks, and the rear windshields had popped off the car, had landed points down, and shattered. Could I help him? I said, yes, I think so, but I'll need you to do some measurements. He said, no, I'm not measuring anything. You're coming out to Vegas, and you're doing the measurements. I said, fine. So I get out there, and he outlines his plans for doing a restoration. That he was going to take it to one shop for body work and another shop for electrical and another shop to do the windshields. And he said, but I'll have to supervise every moment of it. I said, Doug, let me stop you right there. I said, I would be honored and thrilled to take on the task of restoring the number 4 Batmobile. Oh, that'd be great, he said. That'd be awesome. That'd be fantastic. It'll all be under one roof. You guys already build Batmobiles, and I won't have to be there to supervise every minute of it. So we got the job of doing that restoration of the number 4 Batmobile, the actual Barris-built car. And it was so cool to be able to do all of the work to it. And then I'm driving around downtown Logansport. And this is what was absolutely amazing, Tim, is driving around in this particular Batmobile. This is the one that launched that I was going to build Bat-1 way back in the day. And here I am driving it in my own hometown. So everything comes full circle. It's so amazing, and I'm so crazy blessed to be working in the Batmobile business and to have been able to do all of these wonderful things and meet all of these wonderful people, and just had an absolute blast doing it.
That is awesome, Mark. Do you have any closing words for all the 66 Batmobile fans out there?
Well, for all fans, actually, not just of the Batman TV series or the Batmobile, but follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. Because if this crazy kid with no automotive experience, with no automotive tools, can make a business out of building Batmobiles, you can find your niche and you can find a way to fulfill your dreams. All it takes is the right amount of willpower, and you can overcome anything. And of course, a little help from above doesn't hurt, does it?
Amen. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.